Good evening. What's going on, everybody? Mitchell, how's it going there, buddy?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty well. So, let me make sure when I do that I don't close out your mug there. Oh, good. We're still good to go. All right. So, today we are episode 9 of the Bronze Age. It will be a Bronze 5 replay that we're going to get to momentarily. It'll be the second time that we've done it jointly, and very excitedly, Mitchell, this time we can actually watch it at the same time in the same party.
Oh, that will be nice, won't it?
Yeah, it'd be much nicer. So real quick, I wanted to kind of go back and talk about exactly why I started doing this. Kind of repostulate what our goal here is and what we're looking to do. So when I took over my brother's account, he was one of those people said he was stuck in bronze. I got him out of bronze very quickly, and I realized he just didn't realize what he was or wasn't doing down there to climb up out of bronze. So I started doing this every week to try to give people those tools to get into gold, but not only to learn the tools to do that, because there's a lot of things you can do to carry in bronze that are bad habits that will actually hinder your development as a player later. In bronze, you can just take a Zool or an Asmodan and shove one lane the whole game and probably win more than you'll lose, but you can't do that for very long if you want to keep going. So give out the tools to climb out of bronze and silver, but the tools that will allow you to continue to compete as you climb up the ladder without learning bad habits. Also, I hope to show people how to do replay analysis, what you look for when you're doing this, talk about basic composition skills, decision making. We're going to focus on the person who submitted the replay, of course, but we're going to learn from all of the heroes and the things that we're doing. And I in this email that I'm going to read from the person who submitted it today, he's talking about getting frustrated being caught down there. So the main thing to remember is patience, I think, more than anything. I started at rank 48 in the preseason, and I've ground all the way up to, God, so close to platinum. And it takes a long, long time. Patience. There's going to be games that you're going to have teammates that just, hey, there's our guy right there. It's going to take patience. You're going to have games that are going to be losses that you can't do much about, but you just got to remember, for every one of those games, sometimes you got a win that just seemed really easy. It could have been that for the other team. So for every game you can't win, the other team has those games too. So those things will balance themselves out over time. So focus on your own play. Don't stress over what your teammates do. Have fun, be patient, and if you improve as a player, you will carry yourself out of bronze, out of silver, and get up the ladder. Anything you want to throw in there, Mitch?
Yeah, it's always hard, right? I think everybody has a sense of I'm better than this feeling when they're playing in ranked, no matter where they are. We all experience that. We all experience, I feel like I'm doing a little bit better than my teammates, or I feel like maybe I'm not quite plat 4 or 5, maybe I'm plat 1 or 2, and why aren't I there yet? And what are the things keeping me from getting there? I think it's easy to get bogged down in some of that stuff. It's easy to get bogged down in where you think you should be versus where you are. And it's hard in Heroes because it's such a team-based game that it's almost impossible to feel like you can have an impact as just a single person. But you absolutely can. If you watch any of the episodes of when Brian did his smurfing, pseudo-smurfing on his brother's account, you can absolutely have just as much of an impact on a team as one person. Then the other team can have a huge impact as a bad person, for example, as one bad person. So I think it's hard to stay positive for a lot of people. It's hard to say just keep at it and you'll get there, because you and I don't live in that world anymore. We don't live in those teams in that environment, and we're pretty fortunate for that. But it's one of those things where if I carried myself towards gold slash gold didn't exist in the preseason, but around that area with Raynor. with a 2-button carry. I had a huge winning streak, and I maybe played Li Ming twice in that, but I played mostly Raynor, and it's a very simple character. He doesn't do a lot. He doesn't offer a lot in the way of utility, but he's solid and he deals a ton of damage. And I was able to progress a lot by just being the best Raynor I could ever possibly be in that scenario. And that's something I think that you just have to find. You have to find your hero, or your heroes that will help you make an impact on the battlefield, and at the same time, one that you can play well enough that you can try to carry these games more or less.
I think that's especially true at bronze and silver. You can carry with single heroes. As you go get a little higher, you're going to need to expand your pool. But specifically talking about just getting out of the lowers, really mastering a couple of characters is absolutely key, because at that level, there's so much doesn't matter. It's really about who's playing the best and making the best decisions. So if you're the absolute best you can be at the hero that you're playing, even if that hero isn't ideal for maybe that map or that comp, that would be the best way to do that, is really master that hero. And those Smurfs that you're talking about, where I played on my brother's game, I played 20 games on his account, started at bronze 4, and went 15-5 and got him to silver 2 in 20 games. All those are up on my YouTube stream, and you can definitely see the things that you can do to carry in silver and bronze, because I carried in those games 100%. So, and it can be tough to stay positive, and I think both you and I, you more recently, me a little further back, both went through our periods of Hero League frustration. So it's natural. You kind of have to reset yourself a little bit. You and I both have really stuck to our rule lately of, if you lose 2 in a row in Hero League, step back for a little while. So you keep yourself in that good mindset, and I think that's helped me a lot too, and I think both of us as well.
You have to keep your limit. You have to know exactly when you need to walk away from the table. And for us, it's 2 games in a row. If it happens 2 games in a row, we're done.
And everyone's different. Some people can, do that. I can play marathon sessions in this, but not in Hero League if I'm repeatedly losing.
Right, absolutely. Like, I think last night we played, I must have played 6 or 7.
We lost 6 in a row to start.
Yeah.
And we won the 7th.
It wasn't that big of a deal.
No, because it was quick match, and we had our newbie buddy who we were tolerating politely, because it's rough. It's rough out there. So I did load up the replay. We're going into that now. And our hero today is in Twitch chat. He's there. And Mitchell, we have gone global because he is watching us live from the Netherlands.
Ooh, gotta love that.
So he is up at 1 in the morning just for this, and we feel special. So I'm going to talk about his email. I love it when people do this, when they send me the replays. He gave me a lot of background information, and I think that really helps us talk about that game specifically, the draft. I love draft information because you can really set up the game for a win or a loss with what happens in that draft. One of the reasons I like having you on here is you're better at drafting than I am, which is fantastic, gives it more perspectives. So, first of all, he said how I would pronounce his name. Normally I wouldn't even try, but since he's here, we're going to give him a 2:42 a.m. We're going to give him a laugh. Risharu? R-S-H-A-R-U. Sharu is how I would guess that. And so his first paragraph starts here. My team gets stomped. It goes wrong in the draft where we first pick Varian and Muradin, second pick Malf and Johanna, and then last pick Raynor. So that's why we have this oddball comp here. Our hero is over here on Malf. We have 2 tanks, Flex, Raynor, and Malfurion. Now, first of all, the Raynor pick was a little weird. Or I'm sorry, the Johanna pick was a little bit weird. But looking at this comp, it's really not bad. You have double tank, which is always great. Muradin has a bruiser build, so you can use Johanna as the primary tank. You can set up Muradin as a bruiser. And Varian, of course, can go his melee assassin build and almost act as a kind of an Illidan, which will be fine. Raynor can actually work really well with Varian if Raynor uses his W when Varian is diving in. Give him that auto attack speed buff. Down in lower levels in solo queue, though, triple melee is harder to pull off. So I could see why that would be a little bit of an area of contention. I always think at lower level Hero League and solo queue Hero League, it's best to try to stick with the more simple comps, which is usually 2 melees, 2 range DPS, and a healer with a primary tank and an off tank or a melee assassin is usually the simplest as far as randos executing together.
Yeah, they really got trounced in this draft. Picks aside, I mean, being a Zool, 3 melees, especially beefy melees, is what I love to see on the front line, because that means my Backlash is going to get maximum value, my Poison Nova is going to get maximum value, my Cursed Strikes that I can upgrade at 13 to do 5%, I think, Giant Killer is going to get a lot of extra value. So there's a lot to be excited for if you're on the other team. We talked about this earlier. You had mentioned it. The last pick, Johanna,
is weird. Not unworkable though.
No, weird. And what you have to think about is when we think about drafts. When I think about drafts for us, I'm thinking about what is doable, what can we pull off as a team, and at this level in ranked, if you last pick Johanna and we already have a variant in Muradin, you should uninstall the game.
That's
and
a silly pick.
You should just leave.
This is Bronze 5. That's why this particular person playing Johanna is at Bronze 5.
Yeah.
Now, the draft had already gone through. I look at these heroes, and I'm assuming Falstad was banned, but KT would have been great in that spot instead. Jaina would have been great in that spot instead. And there's a lot of heroes that could have done well. So we'll talk about
Tychus.
Tychus, yeah, absolutely. Tychus, Rex right now. I think Falstad is the best one, but I said I'll operate on the assumption that he was banned. So that was his first paragraph, talking about the comp that they got stuck with. So now, from Risharu's, Malfurion's perspective, he obviously doesn't have any control over that, so that's not something you can really worry about. One of the first things you need to do as a healer is you need to determine who is going to get most of your attention. And there's 2 ways that you determine this in solo queue. One is the roles on the team. So looking at this team, Johanna, when played properly, shouldn't need very much of the healer's attention. Muradin, when played properly, shouldn't need very much of the healer's attention. Raynor, when played properly, really shouldn't need much of the healer's attention. Variant is going to be a divey, 2-blading machine of death and should be the focus of the healer in this comp more than anybody else. He should also be the sole target of your cleanses pretty much all the time whenever you have a Dahaka Tongue or your Zool Bone Prism. Normally in Hero League, cleanse isn't a must-take with certain exceptions. Temporal Loop on Chromie, Zool's Bone Prism, and Dahaka's Tongue are all exceptions. So I don't know what build you're going to go, but you need to learn how to use Cleanse on those talents specifically. So you need to make sure you take Cleanse here for the Bone Prism, for Temporal Loop, and for the Dahaka Tongue. So that's, I think we should... That should cover what Malf should be thinking early in the game when you go into this mindset. Who am I healing? And do I need to take Cleanse?
Cleanse is a hard one at this level too, because a lot of people won't react to it.
Right.
You can have an amazing cleanse, and a lot of people will just think, "Oh, I was dead anyways," and just keep standing still instead of running away or doing anything else that they need to do to stay alive at that point. But it's a good skill to know how to use. It's really important as you start to rise up, as people will look for it, will notice
absolutely.
it. So yeah, it's important. I would completely agree with what you're saying. Varian is probably numero uno in terms of priority for heals, and your priority for your Shando's Clarity is probably Johanna. And I say that because
there's not a great target for it.
There's not a great target for it either way, and she needs her mana, which she runs out of pretty quickly if she's doing things correctly. She needs her cooldowns much more than anybody else. She has the least risky CC out of this entire team. She doesn't have to dive. She doesn't have to aim a skill shot for her stun, that sort of thing. So making sure that she gets the cooldown reduction from your innervate really goes a long way in this team.
So he said, my team gets stomped, so we know that going in. He talks about how the draft went wrong. Team wasn't happy with the Johanna pick, which is understandable. Very low damage until Varian gets to 10. All true. He thinks the main reason they lost is nobody really soaks by 6 minutes. We're 3 levels behind. That is a problem, and I will definitely talk about soaking. He plays Malfurion and feels completely powerless the whole game. I try to soak one time, but immediately get pinged. Should I ignore the team or soak? The answer pre-10 is if the lane is unsoaked, you should soak it. Almost always. Now, as the healer, there's very few healers you want solo laning. There are certain examples, but generally, if you're the support player, you need to be near your teammates to support them. Having said that, if the lane is unsoaked, go soak it. Unless there's an objective or some other reason pulling you out of lane, if the lane is unsoaked, soak it. If your teammates ping for you and there's not a real reason for you to be there, ignore them and soak. Soak is so important, especially early in the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Malf is one of the 2 healers, along with Rhaegar, that I think has really, really good wave clear. And Malf has the extra ability to use his W for sight. If you didn't know that, you know that now. You can put it in bushes, you can put it in Shroud, you can put it in just blind spots that you don't have sight over.
And if you hit a hero with it, it'll stay on for a few seconds.
Exactly. So you can see ganks coming, you can see things on the way. Your root is a really powerful lane clear tool. And again, like he said, if nobody's soaking it, you should probably be soaking it, like 99, maybe 97% of the time.
And you even... our Malf here even touched on it. You guys know you're going to lose the early game because of how your team is comped. You simply don't have the damage until Varian gets there. So you guys can't talk about this, obviously, but in your own head, you should be having your team goal is to get to 10 at the same time. Because unless the other team messes up, you're not going to beat them there, right? So that's another reason why that soak is so, so important. And also why it's not really important to push the lanes out early so much as it is to soak lanes safely without blowing a lot of your resources. We're going to talk about that more in a minute. I play Malfurion, felt completely powerless. On supports, it's very easy to feel powerless if it's one of those games. And this could be one of those games where your teammates did doom you to lose. But most of those games, most of the time, that is not true. And even if you are doomed to lose, there's always ways to improve your own play. So keeping that right mindset can really help a lot. Blah, blah, blah. I feel like I made a million mistakes. I am in Bronze 5. All my mistakes were minor. We'll see about that. And would not influence the outcome of a game like this. I enjoy Heroes very much, but he's getting frustrated with it. Don't get frustrated. Keep powering on. It will get better. And then the last thing he talks about is choosing between Tranquility or Twilight Dream. We don't talk about builds too much on the Bronze Age. We tend to focus on the bigger picture, decision making, but we do talk about ultimate selection because it's such a huge deal. Earlier, I touched on who gets your healing priority, right? We said Johanna doesn't need heals. Raynor doesn't need heals. Muradin doesn't need heals. Even a well-played Varian, unless he gets CC'd, has self-sustain. If I were Malf, I would have gone Twilight Dream this game.
I would agree with that.
Now, there's
really help disengage on that semi-weak front line.
And now, granted, there is nothing ever wrong with Tranquility. Tranquility is never a bad pick.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's basically his email. So we'll try to touch on all that stuff during this segment here. He said he's been watching on Twitch, so I appreciate you checking out the replays. I've said this before, so you've probably heard me say it. The early game, levels 1 through 10, minus the time where you're dealing with objectives, your goal as a hero should be to safely soak the lanes without dying and without expending too many of your resources. And the reason you don't want to expend too many of your resources is when the objectives do pop, that you get to the objective with a good reservoir of health and mana. If you don't have any mana, you don't do your team any good. Now, if you can soak safely without spending a lot of resources and not die, and you can push the lane out at the same time, more power to you. But at the lower levels, people get so fixated about pushing the lane out. Pushing the lane is not important in the early game. It's soaking the experience and staying alive that's important. And if I could say 2 things for all lower level players to improve: die less, watch the minimap.
Always great pieces of advice, I think, no matter where you are.
Yeah. But I mean, we've been watching these for a few weeks now, Mitchell, and we can definitely see the difference. The amount of unnecessary deaths is kind of staggering.
It's very, very high.
So let's go get this replay, get the show on the road. You can see it okay. We're watching at the same time, right?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. So
I think one thing here that I can mention as well is that there's a huge difference in between laning and soaking. It sounds stupid for me to say that, especially people coming from other MOBAs, but what you have to remember is the fact that if you're just soaking and you're doing it correctly, all you're doing is getting XP from minions. If you're truly laning, you're trying in one shape or another to control the lane that you are in, be it top, mid, or bottom. And there is a difference there.
Absolutely.
In gameplay.
And as you climb up the ladder, that becomes more important. And as you become more familiar with all of the different heroes in the game, learning which heroes you should be trying to control the lane with and which ones you shouldn't is really important. When I'm saying everybody at Bronze tries to push out these lanes, they are all trying to control the lane. And there's just certain heroes that can't control the lane. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I play a lot of Nova. She's a lot of fun. And if my teammates leave the lane soaked, I just go up there and I stand there. I don't even shoot the minions half the time. I soak the XP, but one of Nova's advantages is nobody knows where she is, and the threat of Nova being somewhere is actually relevant. So it's perfectly viable to sit there and let the minion waves slaughter each other off, and you just soak experience. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if you're Thrall, that's when you bully a lane when they leave you one-on-one. If you're Zagara,
you should be controlling
that's
that
when you bully the lane when you're one-on-one. If you're Leoric,
that's when you are actually laning. You're doing things to further the lane that you are in because you know it's safe for you to do so, because you're a character equipped with the tools to do so. Not just because you think you should, or because you have the opportunity to.
Now, looking at these team comps, nobody on either team, with the possible exception of Zul, is really a lane bully. So neither team should be really doing this. And if these two comps were played by really high level players, the beginning of this game might be a little boring, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna learn. We're focusing on Malf, but we're gonna learn from everybody. Tanks, you're wasting your time initiating onto other tanks. There are certain abilities that are really long cooldown abilities, like Jaina's Blizzard is the prime example of that, but another one is Dahaka's Tongue. Dragging Johanna is a waste of time. And one of the quick and dirty ways to evaluate how good a player is stutter stepping. This Raynor is very new. And how many auto attacks did it take to see that? Ooh, you still there, Mitchell? It says you dropped.
I'm here, yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Watch Quixote. And oh, by the way, I didn't mention this before. Tonight we're doing 2 replays. Immediately after this one, we're going to do an analysis of our own Hero League game that Mitchell and I played earlier today. So you can actually see the difference between a low plat game and a bronze 5 game, because you will see a difference. And one of them is in Quixote right here. Standing still and auto-attacking in one spot is not what you want to do. It leaves you very vulnerable to skill shots. You want to be constantly moving between auto-attacks. Auto-attack, move. Auto-attack, move. Auto-attack, move. See? I mean, that's kind of painful.
Reminds me of my old games on Raynor.
Reminds me of Jeremy.
He literally, I mean, he just stands there, right? He
Yeah.
literally stands there doing nothing. Doesn't even switch targets when he sees it. And okay,
now,
that's another thing to talk about as well. I don't know that stutter stepping is as important at the early game. It becomes very important. It becomes a skill that you need to have in order to get better at this game. You need to learn how to stutter step. You need to learn different timings with different characters. Okay, all of that aside, what I really want to talk about there is switching targets. People we've watched now a lot of replays here, and I've seen this myself plenty of times. It still happens at our leagues. That ranged assassin who had all the damage in the world kept attacking the tank when he could have attacked the Vala, and they could have ended up with a double kill there. it's one of those things where if you are a damage dealer and you see somebody low on health, you should be trying to kill them as soon as possible. That kind of actually goes with the entire team as well. The one thing that you'll hear a lot is your teammates say focus. Focus this one person, focus this other person. I don't necessarily believe anymore that one person should be always forever focused above another person at any given point. But you generally your teams should be attacking the same person if you have the availability to.
And I like you had a big the big point of what you said there was when he could have been attacking Vala. If you're a ranged auto attacker like Vala or Raynor or Lunara, and the only person you can safely attack is the tank, wail on him. Don't blow your cooldowns, but auto attack to your heart's desire. When you want to switch is when it's safe to attack a more valuable target when you can do that safely. And this goes into roles in this game. It is your tank's job to provide your teams with situations where you can safely attack those more vulnerable targets. So in this case, he was shooting at the tank, which is great, but once that more high-value target became available, that's when you switch your targeting. Our hero here today talked about laning. So far, they are very late to being in lanes. Now, blue team made a mistake here. Clearly, all of red team is in the middle. None of these three guys should have even been out here fighting at all. And this is when it's key to watch the minimap. When blue team saw that everybody was here, they should have been safely at the gate soaking. There was no reason for all of this free damage or for Dehaka to die. There's no reason for that. So at this point in the game, though, red team should be rotating into lane. My preference would be probably Johanna and Raynor as the solo laners. Johanna definitely, because you have a Muradin. She can solo a lane all day long, clear it fastly and safe. I would send Johanna to the top lane here and probably Raynor to the bottom.
Yeah, I would send Johanna to wherever Zul is.
Yeah, she can't keep up with him, but she's the closest person that can.
You know, I'm surprised to see this whole 5v5 right in the middle thing keep hold so long at the lower level. We tend to, if something doesn't happen within the first 5 seconds for us, we tend to dip out and just go into lane. Because at that point, you can tell that everybody, all 10 people are going to waste a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of mana to do absolutely nothing.
Yep. Okay. So you need to be, everybody should be minimap watching. And as a support player, Muradin doesn't need your attention. I think you would be better served to be here. Actually, maybe even top, because Varian is 100% going to lose this lane really, 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 really quickly. What's nice about this game is Malfurion is there's actually not a lot of heroes that need his attention. So
yeah, which is really nice for him. If I was in that kind of situation, rotate. Just be on the move.
Sure.
Pop a couple spells in a lane, help somebody out, get on the move and rotate. The more mobile you are, the easier it is for you to heal people when they actually need your help.
Yeah, and then you can throw down some clutch roots.
Exactly.
Oh man, that's painful. Johanna should never be that low, man. That's painful to watch as a Johanna player. Okay, Johanna players. That was a total. Okay, I talked about resources, man. Oh, dude. Whenever you use an ability, you need to think about how much value you're getting out of it. That condemn that Johanna used, 0 value. And at this point in the game, Johanna's basically sole utilization, there's always exceptions to the rule, of course, but sole utilization of her condemn should be on waves and clearing.
This is something I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about as long as we actually decide to do the show. Stop fighting. There's no need for it.
Yep.
This is ridiculous. All this mana, all of this work, all of this effort going into losing actually a lot of soak in top and in bottom. So that's part of the reason why you guys were so behind. I can already see it starting to take shape and form.
Yeah.
This isn't something that you did. You did fine. Risharu, actually, Malfurion did fine. This is just kind of a general, 2 bronze players in general. Stop fighting. Just back up.
Yep.
Back up and just tell the rest of your teammates that you're not going to be there. And if they're not going to learn, then they're not going to learn.
Yeah,
that's fine.
The only exception to this is if you have a gank squad build, a death squad build, which neither one of these teams has. They just don't have that. The only thing I would say, and I mentioned earlier, try to come to the objectives high on health and mana. So I think you burned a little more mana than you needed to. That's a pretty small thing. But see, a low life Lena. I mean, look at this: Muradin, no mana. Raynor, half health. Malfurion, half mana. Johanna, half mana. Varian is full because he just died to Zool in the top lane, which, by the way, kids, is something Zool should never kill you in lane. You will lose the lane to him, that's fine, but you should never die to Zool. He just doesn't have that kind of damage. And also, if you don't know, Zool is incredible on this map, and I doubt we'll see Zool do it, but he's incredible on this map because he is one of the very few heroes who can effectively soak 2 lanes by himself without losing any experience. So what Blue should be doing here most of the time is sending 4 people to contest this tribute as long as possible while Zool double soaks 2 lanes. I don't think we're going to see it happen, but just so you know, Zool's strength is not solo laning. Zool's strength is clearing waves quickly and rotating to another lane to clear that one as well.
I think my one piece of advice after maybe you do it here. No, okay. After you heal that Raynor, you should have just gone to tap. It's the healing fountain for you is kind of half value at that point, just getting it for mana, but it is very valuable in terms of what you're able to do to keep your team alive, to just be able to stick around, to not have to leave later in an engagement. The worst is when you have a fight that goes on really long and you're right about to finish it, and then 3 people go off because they need a tap, and then they'll be back in lane. Well, if you had just tapped in the first place, maybe that wouldn't have happened. You could have stuck around. We could have gotten some kills.
Well, not only that, is if the tap is useful, go ahead and do it because it starts the cooldown timer on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, you die and you sit through some cooldown timer, but at least you tapped at that point.
This is going to happen to me in our game. One of the things you need to do, if you haven't watched Kyle Ferguson, he talks about this a lot. He's fantastic. Another resource for everyone to get better on is evaluating your teammates when you get into a Hero League game because you don't know any of these guys, right? Look at Muradin. He is way up here by himself, and I was watching him do this, just completely isolate himself while the rest of his team is down here. So make a mental note to yourself that your Muradin is either A, too aggressive, or B, just not mindful enough of where his team is. And I'm going to do this next game. I'm going to abandon one of my Muradins when I shouldn't, and it gets him killed. I even commented in-game that was my bad. So when your teammates die, it's not always their fault. And I'll show you exactly where I got one of my teammates killed next game because I didn't evaluate what he was doing correctly.
Sometimes it is their fault, though.
Sometimes it is, for sure. And see, this is another good example, right? So our healer has 2 people up here that are dying. So this is something, Rasharo, you should have actually seen. We're going to back it up a little. So this is the first real, I think, something you can improve on. You guys are coming down here together. You're down here, and you should always be keeping an eye out for people that need to be healed. Muradin is super tanky, but he doesn't get his self-heal until 13? Is healing clap? Or 16? No, 13.
I think it's 13.
It's 13. So he needs to be healed at this point if he gets himself into trouble. So at this point, a healer should know Muradin is in trouble. But Malfurion makes no move to get up there. Still no move. Still no move. So now Varian tries to go help him, and in the process of Varian trying to go help him, Varian is going to get in trouble. This is when you start seeing things before they happen. As a healer, you should know Varian is in trouble right now, even though he has full health. Varian is in trouble, even though nobody has touched him. Because
it's for the simple reason because there's one of the red bodies and there are 4 of the blue bodies.
That's correct.
It's simple math. How many of your characters and how many of their characters, and that's how you tell your chances of winning any given engagement. I think you start to move up here, and then maybe he gets CC'd away. I don't remember exactly what happened and how he ended up so far, but still, seeing something before he happens is exactly what you should have been doing here. It's a perfect opportunity for a root. It's a perfect opportunity for
you beat me right to it, man.
Yeah,
right in that gap right there.
You and I are both looking at that and thinking, ooh, sweet 4-man root for a Raynor, for a Johanna.
For somebody.
For anybody.
The problem right now is the comp. You're right, they are so far out, but you could still be closer to them safely, is the thing. So yes, they are so far out, but they are so far out. So get out there and keep them from dying. Now,
And
don't sacrifice yourself though, because there's
yeah,
no point in killing two. But
that was kind of where I was going with that. It's you can always, especially when you're a healer like Malfurion, right, who actually has some CC, who actually has some battlefield control. If you even get just a couple steps ahead, get a large root enough to get Varian out, you've done your job as a healer. You did your job with your CC, and you saved some money. Worst case scenario, you threw out all of the spells, didn't die yourself, and Varian dies anyways. Well, guess what? He was already dead. If you had done nothing, he would have been dead. If you did something and he still died, at least you had done something.
And the problem, even if let's just say for the sake of this discussion that our Malf is right here in the steam vent, right next to Varian, and his whole team is directly behind him. Like they're all right here in the steam vent, ready to pounce. And he lands this super sweet 4-man root with their comp that right now and Varian pretend they don't have enough damage to really do much of anything with it. Probably kill Vala. So this comes back to understanding team comps is your team was destined to lose this shrine when the game started unless the other team made a mistake. And now with 2 deaths, it's going to be even worse. But so far, still no move from Malfurion to help either Muradin or Varian.
I think the only way they win is if Zul does the split rotating.
Yep, absolutely. No, Zul's on the other team. So,
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so now Varian, we're not seeing this ahead of time. Varian's clearly in trouble. Still no move to go up there. And I think at this point, I saw you go up and then move back down. I think at this point you decided he was already dead, and if that's a distinction you made, that's fine. But the reality is you should have been up there already. See, and now, there you go. There. Okay, so now this is decision-making 101. Everybody on red team should be pinging retreat and leaving.
But Brian, but there's an objective there.
There is absolutely an objective there, and it is okay to give it up. If you watch esports, I say this constantly, those guys are way better than any of us. But the number one thing you can learn from watching professional heroes, even as a complete plebe like you and I are, is how often they simply don't contest objectives. It happens all the time. It is okay to give up the objectives because there's 2 scenarios that are going to happen right here. 1, everybody on red team stays and contests this objective. What's more likely to happen? Blue is a talent tier up and they're about to collapse on a 5v3. So chances are red team is screwed. They're going to die, all 3 of them, and lose the objective anyway. Scenario B, everybody on red team realizes we are going to get screwed, and they all ping retreat and leave. The 3 of them get out safely. They can soak this bottom lane, maybe get clever and get a Merc camp, but the most important thing is they'll get a little bit of experience. They will deny blue team experience because they didn't die, and in 14 seconds the whole team will be up and ready to go, but they've still lost the objective. The important thing to note is that in both of those scenarios, red team lost the objective.
And I think we're about to see that happen here, which you can play it through me talking. Just interrupt me if you want. But I think an important concept to remember, and if I keep doing this show with you, I'm going to keep harping about it.
Nice. And poor Raynor's out of his league. I'm just watching him, dude.
The idea of value, the idea that things that you do in game have some sort of overarching positive or negative effect on what is going to, on the outcome of the game for you or for the other team. And the reason that you see people give up objectives, all the pros give up objectives, is because there's very little value there for them. Giving up the first Punisher is not nearly as valuable to them as getting soak elsewhere, as not dying, as preventing 3 deaths on your team and getting your team into therefore a worse position to defend the Punisher. The intrinsic value that things have in this game is something that you'll get accustomed to the more you play, but the idea that just because you're losing an objective means that you're losing the game
is not true.
Is not true at all.
Not even close to true.
As long as you are doing something else actively that is gaining value for you, then you are doing fine. If you are sticking around and dying, that is very high value for the other team,
Well, and
and
I'm
it's
even gonna
negative value for
I'm
you.
gonna even slightly contradict you, right? You said as long as you're doing something else, and if those three would have just simply stood behind this wall and did nothing, that was addition by not contributing to the other team's success. Even by doing nothing, it was actually a better decision. So
Yeah,
you,
that's fair.
now we're going to talk about, first of all, the Mouth decision here to Hearth back is fine. I know you were low on mana, and you're thinking, I can't do anything down here anyway. May as well fill up on mana. It's actually a really smart decision because you're going to come up at pretty much the same time as Johanna and Raynor, and you guys will form a little comp together as they spawn. Earlier, we talked about knowing your heroes. Remember, in that instance, we were talking about who can lane bully and who can't. Varian is one of the best junglers in the game after level 10, assuming you took Twin Blades.
7 more or less if you take second wind.
Right. He cannot solo this probably at all, and even if he can, it's going to be very, very slow. Furthermore, you're soloing it while the entirety of the enemy team is right next to you, and he's going to be soloing it when Varian is going to be needed to do one of two things. A, defend the Punisher, or B, go soak another lane.
I'm glad you said something about him. I was looking at that move like it was just so bad.
So let's talk about Infernal Shrine specifically. The first Punisher is really weak. So what you want to do during the first Punisher is your tank and your two best DPSs, ideally, should defend, and the other two people should go soak the lane so you don't miss the soak. In this case, it should be Johanna and Raynor and somebody else, because you guys don't really have another DPS, so it doesn't really matter. And the proper way to do it is Johanna, in this case, although Muradin can do it as well, is the tank needs to be right here behind this wall. I hope you guys can see my mouse. But right about where this minion wave is right now. As that Punisher approaches the wall, you use a ranged ability on it. Johanna's E is perfect, and then it will jump onto you. It's very important that the tank catch it, not a squishy. That way you have the tower, the towers in the fort, and all the heroes safely wailing on the Punisher while it is broken up from the enemy team. And anytime there is a wall, that is the proper way to defend a Punisher. So you have 3 people down here defending behind the wall while the other 2 people go soak. I understand in solo Hero League that doesn't always happen. We just got to accept that, but that's the proper way to do it.
The communication gets in the way, and sometimes you just have to ping and stand behind the wall, and then maybe hopefully somebody will learn how the Punisher works.
Look at how long is this going to take him? Oh, and he didn't take Shield Wall or a Warbringer. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, that's just impossible and then Muradin's going to help him out, of
Right.
course.
Yeah, this is terrible, terrible decision making. The reason you guys fell behind is this right here. You're giving up this fort almost for free right now while they soak 2 lanes, because you see Zool is clearly going to the top. And you guys have 2 heroes who can't do camps doing camps. Now, Malfurion, we're going to focus on you. You're right where you should be, but it is going to take you and Johanna forever to kill this Punisher. See, there's the jump I was talking about. The Punishers are programmed to attack the first hero they see or the first hero to use an ability on them. And then after a certain time, maybe 10 seconds or so, would you say, it'll repeat again.
It's like every 12 seconds
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, something like that. So that's why it jumped on Johanna, and that's why it's important that the tank catches the Punisher, not the squishy backline. So far, Malf, other than kind of leaving Muradin and Varian hanging out to dry up there, you're doing what you should be doing. Yeah, do your best. Yeah, dodge those mortars if you can. Auto attack. It doesn't seem like much, but get in there on that Punisher.
Number one tip in terms of improving as a healer is auto attack. Almost every single one of them has a ranged auto attack.
Especially the ranged ones.
No, you're not contributing Alarak auto attack damage, but you are contributing something, and that's better than 0.
Now that was Varian's fault. He dove in very stupidly. But sometimes you can save your teammates from stupidity, and I think in that case you might have been able to get over Tavarian in time. Remember, Muradin and Johanna really shouldn't need much of your attention anyway, so really try to focus on that Varian. That was a really stupid engagement by him, but you might have been able to save him from himself. And as a side note, if you save him from himself and he starts gaining confidence in you, sometimes that translates later in the game as his kit starts to come together. And once again, on both teams, by the way, look at the lanes. Just nobody's paying any attention to top lane. This is actually a really good opportunity for you guys to start catching up while they were ignoring the top soak. Instead, you have Raynor 2v1ing for some reason. I mean, this fight down here was actually... what were you fighting for?
It's always a good thing to think about when you start an engagement or follow up on somebody.
Yeah, so right here, there was no reason to take this fight. No reason at all. That happens. That happens. We all misclick, especially when things are clumped up. It's, especially as a healer, you feel so terrible when you misclick. I've done it before where I've divine shielded somebody I didn't mean to as Uther. I mean, it happens to the best of us. But the main thing down here is this whole fight should have never happened. Once the Punisher was dead, you guys should have backed up and just safely soaked. And still, nobody is going in top lane. Yeah, stay here and soak. No, now back up though. Once somebody shows, you need to back up. No.
The globe was so enticing.
Yeah, don't die for the globes. So you know, Vala or Chromie individually can burn you down very quickly. So this goes back to what are you accomplishing down here? And the accomplish it is soaking. You don't even need to kill the minions. You can just stand really far back and let them kill themselves while you are mounted and ready to leave if somebody shows up. But once you went forward against that Vala, yeah. Now, so exactly, stay right there. No. Right here, right where you were. If you decide to hearth back here, do it after the minion wave is dead.
Globes are valuable. Globes aren't worth dying over, but you were about 2 globes away from being at 50% mana.
Oh my goodness.
And you missed out on a whole lane of soak down there. So that was one of those things we were talking about people not paying attention to the lanes. You could have, again, not gone back before the lane got to the wall at the very least. You could have been hearthing as the last remnants of that wave are being picked off. You could have you could have soaked there, gotten some globes, and that's a little bit better.
And that's a small
in terms
thing.
of just looking. Yeah, it's a small thing. It's just, you know, looking for areas of opportunity
to improve.
For you as an individual player to make more of an impact. And oddly enough, soaking lanes makes a pretty big impact when done correctly.
And I'm going to disagree with his email here. He said he thinks that they lost this game because they didn't soak lanes. But look at the lanes. Neither team is soaking lanes. Your team lost the opportunity to make up some of the difference in experience by not soaking lanes. But they are not losing this game because they're not soaking lanes. They're losing this game because you've died, and by you, that's the universal you. Your team has died 9 times, and the other team has only died once. Your teammates have shown a complete lack of understanding of what's needed with this comp, and that's common at bronze, and anywhere in bronze, and silver too. It still happens in gold. And Raynor is very new. I mean, your teammates are rough. There's no doubt about it, but there's room for you to improve too. And if it makes you feel better, I think you're a little better than the players we're seeing here. So it's a matter of simply rising above. And it's harder to do that as a healer too. Try to get on a ranged carry if you can.
And if it makes you feel any better, this entire game is on Johanna because she decided to last pick Johanna. So don't feel bad about anything.
Oh man, gotta finish off that Vala. You know, I mentioned I'm gonna let this keep going, but I mentioned briefly about, that terrible Raynor, about high value.
And see, okay, that's something that's right there. If he had been stutter stepping and stutter stepped away from where he knew the Dahaka was coming in, it would have been a lot easier to dodge that and not die.
What we talked about, high priority abilities with long cooldowns. Roots is one of them now. You can't just throw the roots around. So that's something I haven't seen. Oh, there you go. That's a perfect example. That is a 0 value root. If you want to really maximize your Malf play, your roots need to be impactful. It's a really, maybe Malf's most valuable ability it as a healer, because it's unique in that the large area like that, not a lot of healers have. Actually, I don't know if any others other than Uther's Divine Storm, which is an ultimate, have an AOECC like that as a basic ability. You really want to make that thing hit like a truck. So be really particular about when you use it, because if you use it and you don't get value out of it, it feels bad because that cooldown is so long. So we're going to talk about decision making here again. If I was on your team, I would be trying to convince my team to surrender the shrine and soak all 3 lanes. At bronze, it's never going to happen, but I think that's the right move here.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think you're ever going to get a bronze team to do that, especially since Raynor is off there starting it by himself.
Okay.
But yeah, a soaking. Anytime you're down at a deficit, especially one that's as large as this, soak.
Tank players. Tanking, I think, is the hardest role in this game to do correctly. And it's sad to say at the lower levels, it's probably the least impactful. But generally speaking, don't dwarf toss over a wall like Muradin did here for no good reason. It's a waste of a cooldown and a waste of mana and completely unnecessary. Also, just now he stunned Chromie down here. Why? There's nobody there. Don't waste your stuff for no good reason.
Again, everything has value. Cooldowns, mana. Those are all value.
There's another root. There's no value in that. That root could have been used on Dahaka
Right
to save. I mean, you guys saved Raynor anyway, but it could have been used to root Dahaka under the tower range. That's good body blocking by Varian, actually. Too bad he didn't hold it. And you're doing a nice job of switching your target prioritization. You got Muradin out alive, but your teammates up here are going to die.
And that's another one of those instances right there where you need to know where you need to put your heals. Muradin has his passive health regeneration, and Raynor could have used the Q.
Yeah, but you know what? In this case, no amount of heals were going to save his team from what they were doing there.
Agreed. Yeah,
Yeah,
they were being pretty silly.
So this happens all the time, even in higher levels. You cannot engage the other team when they have 10 and you don't. So this fort is dead. This objective is done. Everything your team should be doing right now until level 10 should be focused on not dying and getting to level 10. Because until they get there, you can't do anything.
You have a Varian. Level 10 is your first priority.
Right. No, see, right here. There, look at this. See, that's a missed opportunity. There's a minion wave right here waiting to be soaked. And the tank or the fort's killing it for you, and this is lost experience. Now, I think you're going to bottom to soak, but there's also the remnants of a camp here, too. Should have just stayed right here. And I think this is an email where they're pinging you to get up there. Do not go up there. You are 100% doing the right thing. Don't waste your roots there, I don't think. But otherwise, you're 100% doing the right thing by down here soaking. It is absolutely what you should be doing, and going to the objective would accomplish nothing good.
Fort's gone.
Yep.
At this point, you have to learn what we said about seeing things before they happen. You have to know what it takes to get things done in this game, and a second round Punisher there at full health is going to absolutely take that fort down, especially when your team decides to engage.
I mean, would Muradin's presence or Malfurion's presence up here have done anything to change any of this? And the answer
absolutely
is no.
not.
Absolutely
you know, what would have done a difference is soak. If we had more people in more lanes getting experience.
Merc camps.
Yeah,
and that was probably the worst thing I've seen him do all game. And largely, you've been okay. You can't tank the Punisher when they're all right there. That was a mistake, and I'm sure watching this, you know it was a mistake. Your place in this situation was back here, behind the wall, where you can safely do damage. Your whole team, nobody should be out here. They should all be safely doing damage. And Varian flanking while down in levels 11 to 7. I give him 15 seconds. What do you think? Let's see. Well, he lasted longer than 15 seconds. Okay, so 2 things. Your where is the team moment, but that's one of the things that I said in the beginning, don't die and watch the minimap. When people ask where was the team, that means that they weren't watching the minimap. You should know where your team is. So even if you're in the right place and they're in the wrong place, if you die, that's on you. You gotta be aware of where they're at. Chromies. Do not temporal loop Johanna. She can simply press D and you've wasted your ultimate. So if you're going to play Chromie, do not temporal loop Johanna ever unless you just saw her use her iron skin right at that moment.
You know what you just said, too. It's why you see it so often as just a meme is where's the team? Because anybody who's worth their weight in Heroes or even just MOBA experience
knows where their team is.
Always 100% know exactly where their team is, and that's why it's such a stupid question in the first place. It's such a stupid thing to say, and it's not an excuse. It's not a backup for your mistake. You were ignorant to where your team were because you weren't watching. You weren't paying attention. That death is your fault.
And we still do it too, Mitchell.
All the time.
Yeah, it's easy to watch these games, but even knowing what we know we're pointing out, we're still guilty of these things sometimes. And you're going to see things I've said you shouldn't do. A couple of them I do in the next game, and I'll point them out where I screwed up. It was definitely a Bronze 5 death. But I'll tell you, there's times where it's forgivable to not know where your team is, and sometimes where it's not forgivable. That was a not forgivable time because you weren't really doing anything. When it gets more forgivable is like as a team fight is breaking up and you've got the bloodlust in your eyes and everybody was there, and then your teammate starts to kind of break up and do camps and you just didn't quite realize it because you were focused on fighting. That's kind of the more stuff that you expect to see. But in this situation, that shouldn't have happened. And you didn't need us to. You didn't send me this email to tell you that. You would have known that watching that on your own. Okay, so Mitchell, what's the most underrated ultimate in the game?
Cups, by
Cups,
far.
100%.
But only if you position it correctly,
Correct.
which
Now,
this Lily did not do.
Right. Her timing was actually good. Look at her team. They're all still ready to go. However, Lily is a interesting healer because of her fast feet and her blinds. And her W, you actually want to be almost in the front line, not quite, but closer to the front line than the back line most of the time. Because you're squirrely. You can get yourself out of trouble and you can do damage with those blinds. However, once you pop cups, you have to completely switch your mentality and back up to where your team is just at the edge of cups so Johanna can't simply press W and interrupt it. For the Lily player on blue team, that was totally inexcusable. That should have never, ever happened. Speaking of cups, he mentioned in his email he thought cups was superior to tranquility. While I agree generally, what tranquility does that cups doesn't is tranquility is not interruptible. So
it's not a channeled ability. You can't be silenced out of it.
You can't be silenced out of it. Once you pop it, it stays on, and you can do other things.
You can still heal people. You can still innervate people. You can still root people.
So
I think numbers-wise, yeah, you're right to think that Cups is better than Tranquility, but Tranquility is definitely, I think, in my opinion, the better ult.
Right, and the only way to stop Tranquility is to kill Mouth. You'll see high-level play. Well, they'll pop Tranquility and then go into Ice Block, and it's just an unkillable healing zone. Mm-hmm. I don't expect anybody to be doing that, but Tranquility does have its place. It is uninterruptible. When you pop Tranquility, make sure you keep casting spells.
That's the most important part.
Right. And, obviously its range is shorter, so that's why it's a little more different. If you're healing melee characters with it, as Malf, you're putting yourself in a little bit more of a dangerous area than Lily with Cups can stand way further back. That's a good route right there. I talk about this a lot. Don't flame your teammates, even if you're right, which Muradin is not here. Muradin is probably the second worst player on this red team. Flaming your teammates just doesn't accomplish anything. It just makes people feel bad. Nobody's out here trying to lose.
Except for maybe this variant.
And Muradin. That's a good route, by the way, there. I don't know what Muradin's doing, but that was a good route. And by the way, actually, have you seen him use his ultimate yet?
Who?
Oh, he doesn't have it. Duh.
Yeah, the people who don't have it.
We just talked about this. Yeah, there's a report for Varian. So if you're worried about your teammates, because they can be frustrating, your teammates can be frustrating. That's one of the reasons it gets bursted through is people forget they can heal while doing it. You can tranquility and heal at the same time. Don't forget that. My rule that I've become accustomed to is once anybody on my team says something report-worthy like this, they're muted. So I just don't have to hear them the rest of the way because I get salty. I get frustrated. So in order to keep me in my own proper mindset, I'll just mute my teammates. So if they bother you, and not everybody does, but if they bother you and it throws off your play, just mute them. Especially in a game like this, you don't need to communicate with them anyway. They don't know what they're doing.
It's better for your own sanity as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that was a wasted heal. Muradin can heal himself. The only time you want to heal Muradin is in the middle of combat if he's actively going to die. Right there, he would have just slowly healed up himself, and you could have used your Q on somebody else. Little things. There you go. Raynor's a little better. See? Oh, Chromie, she's so bad.
Your Chromie would have been dead already if you had a Rainer in my hands.
Yeah, or I was that Muradin. Look at the bloodlust in Muradin's eyes. How long does he chase Chromie?
He's gonna keep chasing, and he uses his.
And then he starts split pushing. Now, granted, I said 2 levels ago, you guys should be focused on 10. Nobody on your team is focused on getting on 10. In fact, you took so long to get there. Not you. This is the universal you. Your team had another objective spawn before you guys got to 10. It's killing you. You have to get to 10. And that's something that you can improve on too. This is stuff that you should be putting in. I don't talk to my rando teammates very much. The 2 things that I will say always is 10, and I ping retreat. If they get 10 before we do, you get out of there because you're going to die. And right here, I will be saying to them, we need to get 10. We need to get 10. If they ignore you, you've done what you can do, but you go out there and soak.
Go work on getting 10.
Yep.
Go look at areas to
Look
soak.
at all of these places to soak. This bottom lane in particular is such a safe place to soak. That is an excellent route.
And it's a huge wave down there, too.
Yeah, it is.
And instead, everybody's getting caught up on trying to
Wailing
gank
on
a
the
tank
Haka.
who is 4 levels ahead.
Now,
I mean, this is so much the decision-making of your team, honestly.
I like our Muradin calling everybody noobs.
Yeah.
Just in case you don't know how the comeback mechanics in Heroes of the Storm work, if you, like in this case, if you guys traded 2 heroes for 1, you guys would probably end up in experience a little. The larger the level discrepancy, the more kills on the higher team are worth to the lower team, and the less experience the lower team is for the higher team. So when there's a large level discrepancy like that, if you can get a pick, it is huge. And yeah, so granted, you're not going to pick the tank. That was the problem here. If that was Chromie, nice. But you're not going to pick the tank off. Also, the other thing is the higher in level you are, the longer the death timers are. So if you're down and they're up and you trade kills, that is 100% okay. Generally speaking, there's always exceptions, right? If you're Morales, you don't want to die really on anyways. But generally speaking, if you are down in level and the enemy team is up in level and you can trade kills, That's okay. You'll actually come up with more experience than they will, and you will be up sooner than they will. Obviously, if the other guy is Leoric, then it doesn't make sense because he's going to be back before you will. If the other guy is Diablo, it doesn't make sense because he's back before you will. But in most situations, it's okay to trade kills if you're the team that's down in level. And on the flip side, if you're the team up in level, try not to trade kills. You're actually helping the other team.
This is probably not going to happen here. But if that Muradin, for example,
goodness,
had taken out 2 people and yet died at the same time, it would have been totally worth it.
This is what happens when you engage 4-on-5, level 13 to level 9. Just look at the health bars here.
Everybody's health disappears.
Well,
it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter.
They actually did nothing to everybody on the blue team except for Zool. Nobody took any damage, and the 4 of them are going to die. Now, I get what you're doing. You're trying to help your team. In this case, don't. Soak. If I were Malfurion in this game, I would be right here in this bottom lane, soaking up as much experience as I can. Once you get to 10, then you can go up there and try to do these things. But until then, you simply can't do it. You just can't do it. Oh my god, sorry, I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. Just people. We all miss our cues sometimes. Okay, now we have 10. Who caught that? Did Johanna catch that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's a huge follow-up from Varian.
Hold on a minute.
It should not have been there.
Varian went Twin Blades. Okay, I thought I saw him with the shield, and I was like, oh no. That's not a bad...
It's a pretty good haymaker, honestly. If
but
the
once
Punisher
again,
wasn't
Reynar
there,
is
it would
shooting
be a
at
lot
the Punisher,
better.
yeah.
While standing still and being hit by the Punisher.
By the way, Dahaka has no mobility for escape, and that just shows you the level disadvantage here. He punched him into a fort with 4 people wailing on him, and he walked out with half health. And he literally walked out with half health. And look at how quickly Muradin just blew up, one of the most durable heroes in the game. Okay, something that I saw right here. I'm going to back it up a little because this is important. Know the Punishers. The Arcane Punisher is brutal. What I want everybody to watch specifically is watch the laser beams, which do a lot of damage, and watch how much damage Red Team takes from just standing in the lasers. Right here.
There it is. Especially that Johanna.
And Muradin both.
Yeah, you have to... Man, even... the centers from which they spawn those little lasers are even worse because you're taking damage every single frame that you could possibly take damage as opposed to standing on the outside, which is just when it passes you.
Nice. Now bring the Tranquility down to Varian. There you go. Keep it on both. Keep it on both. There you go. Now, I don't...
And see your cues. Yeah, there you go. The sooner the better for all that stuff.
Remember,
you have to remember that.
It took me a long time as Malf to remember you can cast stuff in Tranquility. If you're used to cups, you just don't think about it. But you can cast during Tranquility. I really hope Red Team ends here.
Game goes on for another 4 minutes.
They're not going to end here. What are they doing? Oh, okay, that's blue. I mean, blue team ends, whatever. They've got the mercs here. They should just be wailing on the
This
floor.
might just be a 4-minute delay until the mercs take it down. Oh, there goes Alili. No. Vala's still back there doing everything she can to the back line.
Oh my
Varian's
goodness.
attacking Zool.
They're still... The red team is still dying here.
Yeah.
Oh, Varian just died to a Chromie auto attack, by the way. Oh, look at Reynar. Stand and fire. Stand and fire. Standing in fire through blinds. Look at that. That was 100... Okay, that is the textbook example of why you stutter step. If he's stutter stepping, Chromie probably misses. Instead, he stands still and eats Chromie's biggest, highest damage spell. I don't know why Chromie is tanking the core here, but... Now, I will say, blue team here, this is a nice way to let red team back in the game. Red team is up as 5, and remember this, they're up as 5 and they just spawned, which means they're all at full health and full mana. Blue team only has 3 people here, and they've been here a long time, so chances are they're not full health and full mana. This is the kind of stuff, overstaying your welcome on core, which will let other teams back into the game. Now, you're not going to let a team back into the game when you're up 16 in level to 11 with a core at 32% most of the time.
Never going to happen.
Right, but in a closer game, this is the kind of stuff that will lead to comebacks. So this is red team should be aggressively pursuing this. Muradin is out way too front. And don't target Lily. She's so squirrely and so hard to kill.
This is a good, if Varian was there, I think this is a good time to talk about body language as well.
Yeah.
And
where is
Cups
Varian? What is he doing?
He was standing in the core for a while, and then he went up to top to clear. What we talk about a lot, what we've touched on is the Cups, what the message of Cups sends to your team, which is get in there, keep going, don't worry about it, I got you, keep me safe, and you will last through anything. Tranquility honestly kind of says the same thing.
It's just not as loud.
It's just not as loud, and it's not as flashy. In other words, it doesn't have the same oomph that Cups has to it, and but it is the same kind of thing where if you really want your team to start going forward,
that's a great use of Tranquility right there.
But it's not, because their Varian had just died, and what I was trying to hit on before is if Varian had been there in the original defense of when this had started, and you had used Tranquility to send the message to your team, hey, let's keep going, you guys actually might have gotten a pick there. But that's mostly Varian's fault. What
we learned there, by the way, is Varian died because he was tanking the entire minion wave damage. And he was taking so much damage from just minions that it burned him down through an early Tranquility. He did Tranquility early. But he was taking so much damage from minion waves that included catapults that he just melted.
Yeah, you hate to see that.
Okay, let this end mercifully.
Yeah, this is just a slow end here by blue team. This is probably where it happens. Yeah.
Okay, so there it's officially over. So to wrap up, first of all, you and I think both agree, correct me if I'm wrong, there is largely MMR hell doesn't exist. If you are good enough, you will claw your way out. Having said that, for this one game, Rusharu, I grant you the existence of MMR hell. Your teammates, the comp you got stuck with, was brutal. That game was brutal. You didn't lose the game because of the soak. You lost the game because 37-2. I think you were probably the best player on your own team.
That's many kills.
That doesn't say a lot. But you only died 3 times on a team that died 37 times. So that's good. Even in a stomp like this, a game that you have to be pulling your hair out at the end, there were things to learn in this game. 100%. Even despite your terrible teammates. So I hope you did, and I hope you send me another one, a closer game, so we can really look at the individual decisions within the game that make a difference in a close game. Even if you don't always have to send losses. You can send a win, but send close games so we can look at the individual decisions that turn a game one way or the other. Because with the way this game went, it was an absolute stomp. There was still plenty to learn, but I think we can learn more from those closer games. So send me another one.
I'm an absolute cynic. I don't think MMR Hell exists at all.
But I think we can give him this one game.
If you're truly that much better than your opponents, you can carry all day long. I've seen it 1,000 times. However, while MMR Hell certainly doesn't exist, Teammate Hell I believe in more than hell itself, because your teammates this is a team based game. Your teammates can make or break what you're trying to do. I just don't think that it's, you know, the end all be all to how you approach your game, but sometimes you just get draft losses. Sometimes you just have things that you cannot possibly win because the burden of execution is so high for you that it's just not within your wheelhouse to do so. And I think that's okay. I think when you have a Varian that dies 13 times on your team,
Or teammates that
maybe,
die
yeah,
34 times other than you.
right. I mean, granted, you're having somebody else do a replay analysis, but if you do your own, you could obviously see where the trouble in this game was lying. I don't think that it was your game. I think that it was everybody around you. So keeping that kind of stuff in mind helps with the feeling of MMR hell, helps with that feeling of I'm not good enough to get where I need to be.
So I'm booting up a Hero League game that you and I did with together earlier today. I thought it would be a nice compare and contrast. So, Risharu, I know it's really late there. If you're not going to stick around, just watch it on YouTube because I'm going to send you the link. But I think this is going to show you a nice compare and contrast as to the types of games you'll be playing in when you do get higher. Because you will. I have faith. If you keep working at it and being self-critical, you will absolutely get higher. And it'll show you kind of what you're working towards. And gold, this is a kind of a mixture of low plat, high gold. There's still things that go wrong in this game. But we had a pretty good team here this game. Everybody seemed to kind of have an understanding of what we can do. And the way we ended this game is a perfect example of that and stuff that you won't find at bronze. So I'm going to step away for half a quick second here. And I'll be right back, and we're just going to watch this one through. I'm not going to pause it very much, but we can point out some things, a couple things I in particular noticed on myself in game, and then we'll go from there. Be right back. All right, unmute myself, and here we go. We touched on it briefly the first game. Notice how long the little skirmish in the middle lasts here compared to the Bronze 5 game. And you'll see what we were talking about. We kind of skirmish, and then everyone goes away. I'm going to talk about, in my opinion, and then I'll have you follow up, Mitchell, the difference between Bronze, Gold, Plat, and then Masters. We saw what Bronze is. Bronze is... It's a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. There is no meta. People make silly decisions. There's no stutter stepping. There's a lot of dying. It's really frustrating to get stuck down in that level if your knowledge level is higher than your mechanical level. I think at this level we're playing here, people are generally pretty solid. Players do make mistakes, and sometimes some pretty silly ones, like that Malfurion there. But very few people make really bad decisions over and over and over again. Generally, you're going to see people in gold, they'll do a couple times, they'll do something, and they're like, oh, why did I do that? And they know in the moment. But usually the mistakes are, for the most part, minimal. People are generally pretty fundamentally sound. And for the most part, everybody has an idea of what they're doing, what the heroes are doing, a good idea of the meta. I think it's a really solid place to be. And then if you go watch the master level streamers, those guys are ridiculous. They're really, 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 really good, and they pull off stuff in solo queue that we can only dream of doing right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with pretty much all of that. I don't think that anybody in our league, and this is 100% true of you and I don't think any of us here have it figured out 100%. This is probably where I would consider it to be, 50, 55, up to maybe even 60% of the way figured out. There's probably a lot to learn from even just from watching ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Watching other players, for sure.
And actually what I'm doing right here is a really good example of knowing how to lane or versus soak. Even if KT wasn't up here, I'm going to lose this lane against Thrall at least until I get the static shield at 4. You see, I don't even go out in the lane. And that's exactly why, is because I know
you're
by
just
myself,
sticking around and so you're literally doing what it's called. You are soaking. Yeah. You are not doing anything else.
Now watch how this changes when Muradin comes up here. Look at how my body. We talked about body language. Look at how much my body language changed as soon as Muradin arrived.
Absolutely. He says, "Okay, here's my buddy. Here's my chance to get in. Here's my chance to wreck face. Here's my chance to do some damage because Muradin's right here." I see Muradin's hungry for it. I should be hungry for it as well. Let's go. Let's get in there and do
Here's
this
my
thing.
first mistake of the game, is I don't evaluate Muradin properly. Now, granted, we're 2 minutes into the game, and this is the first time we've been around each other, so I didn't really get that opportunity. Muradin chases both Thrall and KT here. Once he chases them away, I anticipated him to turn around and come back with me to anchor the point, and he doesn't. He keeps going, and in the process, he dies. If I would have stayed with him, we'd probably kill both of them, but I make sure I get the point. And this is on me right here. So Muradin dies, and it's my fault.
I can see it both ways. I can absolutely see exactly what you're saying. I also see it from the standpoint of
he went too far. He went in tower range.
He just went too far. That was another one of those "why are you fighting" kind of a thing. I understand the want to take the Thrall down, which he doesn't end up accomplishing anyways.
Now, granted, if I were there, Thrall wouldn't have kept fighting and he would have just backed up.
Exactly. So if you got back on point with your buddy, then it saves yourself a death.
So that's, of course, you on the sweet Tychus. I fly down here to try to get this, and Malfurion does a really great job here of stalling this, and then he stays too long. Now, once again, this goes to, okay, Thrall shows up. I know with the two of us, I can't do anything. I just back up.
Yeah, if for 1 second after we see that sweet pick, one of those things to talk about is like you using your escape upon seeing somebody as opposed to something, as opposed to waiting. Why would you ever wait? Why would you say, I'm going 90 miles an hour at this wall? Let's see what happens. No. Get out of the way or get out of the car, and you don't even have to worry about it. It doesn't even become a thing.
Okay, basic stuff here. When you're on the Dragon Knight on this map, you attack from where he is, the top, so the bottom tower can't shoot at you, or you attack from the bottom tower so the top one can't shoot at you. Basically, as the Dragon Knight, you should position yourself in a way to where only one of the towers can shoot at you at a time. By the way, what we're doing over there, it's called anchoring. It's preventing a flank when we saw Sylvanas down there. And all I'm trying to do here is if he gets knocked out of the DK is to throw a slow on him to help him get away. Let's see your sweet pick, dude. Let's see it. I want to see it. I didn't get to watch you play.
What pick is this? What pick on Stitches?
Top lane, yeah.
Ballsy, I went up there with no health.
Yeah, but
I don't think I could tap.
This is when Muradin, watch his body language change as soon as Tychus gets up there. Body blocks. He goes forward and not backward as soon as Tychus arrives there. So that's, and by the way, when you see that more, that's an ability you can learn as a player, which is watching your opponent's body language change. If they start getting really aggressive into you and they've been playing really solid all game long, you need to start questioning, well, why? Why is he going aggressive? And it's because something changed. He's been passive, playing really smart, and now he's going aggressive. Why? Something changed. A teammate's coming, and that's what's changed. See, once again, I can't lose the lane versus Thrall, and I see Muradin coming. We're gonna just miss him here because he changed his direction on me. Patience. That wouldn't have even worked remotely, as if I would have scared him off. Now you'll notice when you watch this game, we talk about laning and soak. We're not all just staying in lane, but very, very few waves are getting missed in this process of everybody moving around.
This is Dragonshire too. This is one of those maps you have to be mobile on.
Absolutely.
One of the things I always notice is a difference between top and lower levels, even our levels, God, is the amount of rotations that happens, the amount of moving around that people do. This is such a small game compared to your League of Legends, compared to your Dotas. People get around quicker. You can mount at any time that you want on a small cooldown. It's one of those things that I think we have to improve on too. It's pretty crazy.
Yep.
How far some people take it.
I tried to fly up there to get them out, but once the enemy team showed up, I just let it go. Don't get caught up in that bloodlust. If you're in a bad situation, just leave. The only time you need to stay in a bad situation is maybe if you're holding that point to your death to get the big Zerg rush or hold on to the DK, or as if the game is absolutely on the line. If the game's not on the line and there's no objective, just leave. There's nothing wrong with that. Just leave.
Live to fight another day. Live to get more ganks later.
This was a mistake. I didn't realize you had it handled so well.
Yeah, come back, buddy.
And once again, I'm not going in there because I see there's 3 of them and there's 2 of us.
I don't think you saw the laser. I think that's what happened.
That's exactly what happened. I was just looking at the mini-map and basing my decision on that. Once again, we give up the point because there's no reason to try to hold on to it, right? We talk about giving up the objectives. We just gave it up with basically no fight because there's only 2 of us. And normally I don't body block as Falstad, but if he's low and I'm high, I will eat that Thrall damage to keep him alive. Right here, I think I do it. This is when it's important to ping your teammates mid. You know we're going to get it, let them know.
Alarak combos were so clean.
And this actually isn't a great replay for analyzing, because I think you and I both played pretty clean this game. I pointed out a couple of my mistakes here. But you can see the difference in the game, the quality of the game. Even in losing, red team is sticking together. They're playing fairly clean for the most part, you know, even in a loss. So you can see here, Rhaegar and I are using the DK as a tank. He is the tank in our little mini-comp.
And oh, such a tank he is.
Yes, he is.
He can do a lot of damage too. If you can get people locked down for either the Garden Terror or the Dragon Knight, it's always a worthwhile endeavor. I don't think that it's ever a bad thing to use the Dragon Knight to kill somebody if they're out of line.
This is a small thing, but you notice when I get this camp where I'm positioned, I'm soloing the camp in a fairly dangerous spot because I know they're all right here. I'm not doing it from right here. I'm doing it from the safe side as far away as possible. So if I see them coming, I'm just going to give the camp up. I'm just going to leave.
Surprised Sylvanas just let you have that.
Me too. But the positioning in there, those are little things that you can do to improve your play, setting yourself up for not getting picked. And we're going to show my embarrassment to the world later, Mitchell, the worst Gust NA later on this game.
Oh yeah, this is the game where it happens.
Worst Gust NA. If you're aspiring to play Falstad, who is really good, I was afraid to play Falstad for a long while because I couldn't gust offensively properly, and I was afraid if you do an offensive gust wrong, you can really actually hurt your team. It's one of the few ultimates where you can actually hurt your team, as you will see later this game. But just stick on it. Even if you only use Gust as a defensive tool, it's still really, really, really valuable. Get on that Falstad if you think you can use him.
It's just such a powerful positioning tool for both your team and the other team.
Absolutely.
And it's a great get out of jail free card, even though I hate that expression. It really is. It's a great push against tool as well. If there's like a huge like Zul push with the two camps packed on top of there, it's really good to get all of that out, get it all in the same place, and kind of easier to deal with for your AoE people. And of course, my favorite is the actual NA gusts, where you go on the other side of them and blow your teammates into them, and or just blow them out of position. You don't have to necessarily get a perfect gust and blow them towards the rest of your team.
I'm going to highlight this defense in the bottom. This is the big difference between bronze and gold. These guys knew they were at as a disadvantage, and they just let the wall go. They didn't hard engage on it. They just waited and waited. And you can see us. We're outnumbered here, but we don't hard engage.
Like, it sucks. It sucks so much to have to lose that wall, right? At that moment, doesn't it? It's just the worst. You don't want to do it, and the other team just has you outnumbered, and they're going to do it either way. Whether they kill you first or not, they're going to do it. So why not die and wait for the cavalry to come, and you can turn it around on an awesome engagement.
And the reality is, it sucked to lose that wall, but it didn't really matter. In the
end, it didn't matter because it was awesome to kill 3 of them at one time and then take this objective.
While the 3 people who were bottom patiently waited. Oh, hey, F, what's going on, man? No, this is actually just a duo team that Mitchell and I played earlier today, because I do replay analysis for low-level Hero League, and this is a good game to compare and contrast what you see at low-level versus kind of mid-level Hero League. And you can see what I'm doing. I mentioned that earlier. The knight is bottom, it's down to keep away from the towers. Now this doesn't go well for us. So now right here, what's going to happen is we know we're down, so we back up, but we keep our presence on the mini-map to keep them from responding to the mercs in the top lane. As long as we keep in this neighborhood, they have to respect where the Dragon Knight is. Safely.
We definitely overstayed our welcome.
But we got Thrall out of it, though.
We traded. It was okay. And really, it ended up being just value.
And that's a terrible wailing arrow, by the way. That's a terrible wailing arrow.
And this Sylvanas, whoever's going to watch this needs to go back and watch to see how the Sylvanas decides to act, because you can learn just as much from your opponents as you can from yourself.
Oh, for sure.
Never engage with your E.
No.
Absolutely never do that. There is no reason for it. I know, as my assassin self who plays assassins all the time, I know that that's your escape. I know that once you do that, you're not going anywhere except for hell, because I'm going to kill you there.
That E is used for 3 things. Number 1, getting away. That's the main one. Number 2, repositioning within an engagement. Or 3, sometimes in pursuit if it will secure a kill, but never engaging.
And the way that you're going to use it as an engage, if you can just sneak that kill, is after 16, which this Sylvanas did take it, which is Windrunner, which gives you another free one after 5 seconds, and it also refills your Withering Arrow, which is really, really nice. So that's the only other time when you have another one.
See, now we know Sylv is in the bottom. We know they're split. We're trying to find an engagement is actually what we're doing here. We're trying to find somebody.
See, we're keeping tight formation too. We're keeping his 5.
Yep. And you notice who's the frontmost? Muradin. Now he goes too far here. This Muradin was very aggressive. And here's why he was too aggressive. Once that Earthquake and Phoenix went out on the same spot, All the 4 of us are way too squishy to walk through there, and that leaves Muradin by himself. And we just can't pursue through there. And those things happen. That was really, basically that was well played by Red Team, but ultimately they had to use 3 heroics to secure 1 kill.
I don't know exactly what that.
I don't know what he was saying
feedback
there
either.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I mispositioned myself on the fly in there, and then I gave Mitchell a bomb for his troubles. That you don't want to be doing either one of those things. So, we go hard in here because we see that they're leaving and we have a chance to take it back. And that is a brutal laser, dude.
Yep, I had it. I had it down. And then the Alarak follow-up was
Yep.
exactly what we needed.
Patience everywhere, dude. Patience everywhere.
And following up and looking at other things other than just our own character and our own screen. Looking at how our teams are positioning, looking at how their team is positioning, what their team's looking to do in any one given moment. And that's why I had that informed aggression right there. We were both at 4. We were both even in the team fight. And if I could get into delay, then I can get into, do my best. And we end up winning this team fight, turning it all around here.
And you can just see watching these games, dude. There's such a difference even between gold and bronze. Or gold, plat, and bronze.
The other thing you start to see too is coordinated abilities to
Yep.
people literally waiting for you to do.
Look, and patience. In bronze, everybody's going straight to this top. I know full well I have enough time to get this camp and still get up there. It's not a thing. And also, Mitchell, though, Baby Cthulhu does play on my chair league team with me. I have one of my old chair league teammates in there. We'll go over here. I'm just clearing minions right now.
Look at me though. I'm beating down
Look at you go.
keeps and stuff. Walked right past the wall. Didn't even care about the wall.
The Garden Terror and the Dragon Knight obviously should be used sieging priority, but they hit like a truck, and if you have a chance to use them in a team fight, don't hesitate to do so.
And don't be afraid to do this either. Don't be afraid to back up.
Yep, absolutely.
Don't be afraid to not go crazy. I don't think we quite finished it off here.
No, we don't. Actually, how this game ended was really good team coordination for a YOLO game. I missed my boomerang there, but oh well. See, and this is something you wouldn't see at bronze. Just leave. It's done. Just back it up. We all just leave. We were trying to bait Sylve into the bush there is what we were trying to do. It didn't really work. They were a little too smart for it.
Still got out in time.
Yep.
Everybody still did okay. Oh no, here's where it happens. This is it.
Oh, this is worst gust NA right here. Oh, Mitchell.
Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that.
Yeah, that's terrible. It's worst gust NA right there. It's a good thing we're in a party, otherwise I could have turned the whole party against us right there.
Yeah, I mean that's when I really give it to Brian.
Yeah, because it was terrible. And to be fair, it took me before it was even done, I was like, oh no, what did I just do? However, the team doesn't go to pieces. We find other things to do. Now, Muradin sillily tries to steal their camp here, and watch how quickly we all reject that idea.
There's so many pings.
Well, it doesn't show it in the replay. Those pings were retreat and danger after Muradin said go get it. Now, that was a silly pick. Rhaegar should have never been down there. And he knows. See, and that's what I said at the beginning of the game. At Gold, you see people make really stupid decisions, and then they know. That's what happened there. Rhaegar made a poor decision. He died, and he's like, what was I doing? Now, this here is a smart decision. What do Alarak and I do down here? Nothing.
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 Unfortunately, it sucks that you had to do nothing, but you also didn't die. This is a really important
we
part.
both just wait. When they leave, we kill the minions. And that's something you wouldn't see at that bronze in that last game either, is they would have died for that fort. But why?
You see an active delay. You see an active trying to stop them from getting the fort in the first place, which, again, seeing things before they happen, you know it's gone. It's going to be gone. Either they're going to kill you and it's going to be gone, or they're going to just kill it and it's going to be gone. Either way, it's gone. Get over it. Move on. Live.
We lost that fort, and it didn't matter. It is irrelevant. Now this is where, as a team in solo queue, this was really smart what we did here. We steal this camp. Now the reason, if you want to know, the reason I didn't go with Muradin straight away is I was one minion away from a bribe stack. You're going to see me go up there right now and use the bribe on it. Now this is the perfect example as to why to watch the mini-map. We know where everybody is. They're going to push a fort, and instead of reacting to them, we are going to simply push a keep. If you can trade a fort for a keep, do it.
Every time. Every single time.
And our team all goes with us, which is great.
Muradin does it the stupid way, but that's okay.
He does it the show-offy way. Now, here's what happens, and this is why this is so good. As soon as they show... Look, they disappear
Guess what
from
we
the top
do?
lane. We just leave. We don't stay too long. And furthermore, with Falstad, I'm going to fly up. I'm going to take the top shrine, and we're going to get the knight and end the game. And that was all predicated on the split push and knowing where the enemy team
Knowledge.
was.
It's knowledge. It was informed aggression. And it was just enough. It wasn't, let's stick around
Watch
and
how close
and
this is.
see
Look,
what
the
happens.
whole team is here waiting. They're going to grab it right away. Watch how close this is when it pops.
Wow.
And when you get a 20-minute DK with no keep in the way, go to core.
I do nothing but go to core.
Yep.
I don't even put an ability out on that wave.
Because the teammates will get it.
Because it would stop me from getting to core faster.
And there's Thrall getting melted. That's not where you want to be.
I get pulled away, right back on core.
Yep.
Maybe I'll readjust myself a little bit.
And you notice I went straight to core. Rhaegar went straight to core. Now we do get we get sidetracked when we get those squishies on us. You notice I repositioned with the vulnerable on me, but
Yeah, I
ultimately,
wanted to get that
we're all
KT
on
out of there.
core.
And you guys were doing such a good job of distracting them, and it was free for me to do that, to keep pounding on the core.
So,
And that's what you have to trust. You have to trust that sometimes.
yeah, and this was a good team we got paired with, but that is really a good example of the difference of the kind of play you'll see between the Bronze 5 game we watched to start and kind of high mid Hero League. That was, I said, that was like Plat 5, Gold 1 there. So you can see what will happen. It will get better, Risharu. Stick in there. Send me another replay so we can go over a more close game and really look at those nuanced decisions that make a difference. And I hope you do watch this game too, so you can see the kinds of things that you want to do in a well-played, solid Hero League environment. And this isn't Master League either. None of us are going crazy or going pro. It was just a nice, well-played, solid game by both teams. Red team had their moments too. They stuck together. In the end, they just didn't quite get it. And I think we actually had a slightly better comp too, which helped. So thanks for hanging around, guys. Tomorrow we're going to be streaming Duo Hero League about the same time. So come out for that if you'd like. And everybody have a wonderful evening. And we will see you in the Nexus. Have a good night.
Take care, y'all.